Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese. Of course.
It's okay, I'll take it from here.
Hey, get the guy get a seat!
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Alexander, and we have a very special show. We're going to show you the business side of college athletics today, and I can't wait because the NIL, which is name, image, and likeness, that just started literally less than 2 years ago. So now this is how the players are getting paid in college. They get their name, they get their image, and their likeness. Now they can get paid off of that, and sponsors and boosters from the schools can legally do it. We have the two guys that started at the two big local football schools, LSU, Gordon McKernan. They're both attorneys. Gordon McKernan with LSU, Michael Arata with Tulane. They both started the NIL, and then they have done very well with it, and it helps both the athletic departments in both schools, and I can't wait to talk to them about how they got started and going forward what they're going to do. But let's move on to sports right now. Derek Carr, you know who he is. He's been a quarterback for the Oakland Raiders for 9 years. He is 31 years old. This guy has 220 touchdown passes already. He's thrown for over 35,000 yards. And I'm going to say this. He's a 4-year deal worth $150 million. And the part you have to know that matters is the $100 million guaranteed. He's going to get a good bump up front. But this is a guy, they haven't had a quarterback since Drew Brees for real. They've had guys that have filled in. 5 different guys have started over the last 2 years, but those 2 years, they've been 16 and 18. And the previous 4, well, the New Orleans Saints had the best record in the NFL, even better than the Kansas City Chiefs for those 4 years, 2017 through 2020. That's where we're rolling. Now, this guy will give you a chance to get back into the double-digit win category. Just 2 years ago, he threw for 4,800 yards, 27 touchdowns. Derek Carr is a player. In the right system, he will prosper, and I think he will do it here in New Orleans. Let's talk about the NFL Combine. LSU, they had 9 players. Kayshon Boutte, who didn't have a great senior year, but he had a phenomenal junior, or the second year, but he's going pro. And we know about Baskerville, Michael Baskerville, the linebacker right there. Of course, the big lineman, Anthony Bradford. I'll just roll through these. Ali Gay, Jeray Jenkins, B.J. Ojulari, Jaquelin Roy, and Jay Ward. They were all at the Combine. And Tulane, they had 2 of them, Tyjae Spears and Dorian Williams. How about Dorian Williams? He ran a 4.49. This is a 240-pound linebacker. He was rolling, and he is a great player. And also, we know Tyjae Spears is going to be a high pick in the draft, and hopefully he might come be at the New Orleans Saints. Hey, we can all wish, right? And speaking of all that, Tulane spring practice, they started last Thursday, and they are in full swing right now. And LSU, they get things going in a couple days. There you go with Brian Kelly. He's going to start practice on this Thursday, so look forward to that. And let's talk about basketball, because I have been going to a lot of games around. I've been seeing UNO, Tulane, Loyola's tonight, but we're going to get into it. Tulane basketball right now. How about this? They finished with 2 huge wins over the weekend. They had the makeup game on Friday night against East Carolina. They won that one 81-78. Both these games were won in the waning seconds, and they beat Temple this past Sunday, just 2 days ago, 83-82. What a phenomenal finish to the season for the Wave. They won the last two to finish third. That's the block right there that ended the game, basically. It was 83-82. They had a chance to win it, and Tulane blocked the shot and held them back. So congratulations to Tulane and Ron Hunter. They're 12-6 in conference, finished third. They're going to the AAC conference tournament. They play Thursday, and Ron Hunter got his 500th career win. Congrats to him. And they are going to be a force in that tournament, hopefully. So that's going to be Thursday. And moving forward, LSU, that basketball team, they started 12-1, but we know what happened. They lost 17 of their last 18 to finish 2-16 in conference, 13-19 for the season. And they will play Georgia. And there you go. KJ Williams was the All-SEC second-team player. That was a bright spot in a pretty down season, but look forward. Hey, they started with nothing because they had the new coach, and obviously they're going to Matt McMahon, and they're going to be fine next season once they get some legs under them. You know how that works. But also they play Georgia tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the SEC tournament. How about UNO though? They've won 6 out of 7, including 2 in the Southland Conference against their arch nemesis Southeastern, and they play tonight in the third round, the semifinals against Northwest Louisiana. Let's go to baseball real quick. UNO. They're also hot. They've won 6 in a row. I was at the Brown UNO game this Saturday night, this evening. They played a couple there. And I'm going to tell you this. They have won 6 in a row, 3 versus Brown, and they're rolling. Tulane baseball, not so much. They did win their last game. So they're 2-10 right now, but they're going to turn around. They had by far the toughest early schedule of any team. LSU baseball, what can you say about this team? 11-1, still number 1 in the country, and that guy right there, Dylan Cruz, is batting .465. You heard me right, .465, and he's got a .620 on base percentage. That is unbelievable. He's got 11 walks. They're scared of him. He's going to be the first pick of the Major League Draft next season, barring some kind of injury. And don't forget tonight, we have a big one. Loyola, for the second straight year, is going for a national championship. They didn't win one in 75 years until last year. Now they're going for their second in a row. They play in the NAIA tournament, and yours truly will be there. Hey, we got a great show. I just told you we have Gordon McKernan and Michael Arata to talk about the business of sports. Coming up next, right here on Primetime Sports.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. And I told you earlier in the open, this is going to be our money show. We always have coaches. We have athletes, of course, current and former. But we also obviously have musicians. But this one, we're bringing the guys that make it happen for the college players today. As you know, NIL came into effect a couple years ago. That's name, image, and likeness, where players can get paid because of their name and their image and stuff that gets sold with their number and stuff on it. And now we're going to talk to players that actually get it done, coaches that hire these guys, or the teams that get these money makers to pay the players. And right now we have Gordon McKernan from LSU. Gordon, it's been a long time.
It has been.
How you been, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
We've known each other a long time, and I know LSU has been in your blood for a long time.
Yep.
You went to U High, right there on campus. University High literally is probably about 100 yards from your fraternity.
It is.
And obviously the law school's right there. But you've been around LSU your entire life. Did you grow up in Baton Rouge as well?
Yeah, I did.
Life?
Born and raised.
Okay, so talk to me about growing up in Baton Rouge and being an LSU fan first.
Yeah, so my dad came from Miami on a basketball scholarship to LSU.
That's right.
Moved up here, married my mother, and then raised us in that bloodline of being a Tiger purple and gold. So going 12 years on the campus at U High, which is basically on the LSU campus.
It's on the campus, yes.
Yeah, so in elementary and junior high, we actually had the U High student section inside the LSU football stadium.
Oh,
so
wow.
we had our own private little area. So it was infused into me at a young age, and my dad was a huge fan. He was on the board of supervisors early, like in his 30s. Edwin Edwards put him on the board.
Nice.
And so just LSU as far back as I can remember.
Now, did your mom meet in college?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, my mom went to LSU.
She's Baton Rouge native?
Yeah, she's Baton Rouge, yep.
Well, let me say this. We've had a lot of father-sons on this show. I've had Bobby Hebert and T-Bob Hebert separately and together. I've had Rich Maudy, who was a Saints fan favorite. He was a great special teams player, wide receiver. And his son, Michael, who also played for the Saints. Who played for the Vikings as well. We've had Herb Tyler, a great LSU player, as you know.
Yep.
His son, Jay Tyler, was a star here in high school, went on to Stanford. and a few other father-sons, but I've never had a father-son situation where the son actually was on the show twice before the father. And I know you were a great athlete yourself, but your son, John Gordon McKernan, came on his junior year. I've never had juniors in high school. After he won a state championship, I think I called that game against De La Salle.
Yeah.
They demolished him in the second half, and he came on with the coach.
That's right.
And then
his
also.
Senior.
Yeah, there he is.
Look at that picture. That dyeing his hair blonde for the soccer.
I'm not seeing the pictures. I see.
Oh.
And then we have the Mike Hollis one right there. With, they came on with that. But by the way, Mike Hollis.
Yeah.
That's a story in Virginia. He's doing okay.
Right, he's doing great. He's back there, and he's training to get back into shape and hopefully play in the fall.
Yeah, he was shot. Virginia, the tragic story with all the players getting shot, and he was the one that survived. Thank goodness.
That's right.
But moving forward, as far as John Gordon, he played at LSU for a couple of years. How's he doing now?
Oh, he's doing great. He's finishing up in finance and will most likely go to law school, and looks back very fondly on his championship ride with Joe Burrow and all those guys.
How great was that, though?
That was.
I mean, honestly, you were part of that. I mean, you're a fan. I mean, you're an alum. That ride, I don't get to go to the games because I have to work those games where I work on the weekends with Tim Brando, but did you go to most of them?
Oh, yeah. I went to every game that season.
Home and road?
Oh, yeah. Every game.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Was it that magical?
Oh, it was that magical. And you know, your son's in the quarterback room.
Right.
With Joe Burrow, Miles Brennan, all of those. And so listen to the stories that he would come and tell in the evening or on the weekends. It's
something he'll never forget.
No, he won't.
And as a dad, you probably won't either.
Nope.
But moving forward, I mean, what is going on with what happens after you leave LSU football? What's he going to do the rest of his life? I'm just curious.
I believe he'll probably come into the family business. You know, he's a good-looking kid. He meets people well. I could see him on a billboard one day.
Speaking of billboards, let's have some fun. There's John Gordon right there with your wife and you. Yeah. That's during his high school career.
That is. That was the actually that was the
senior day or something.
No, that was the Bobby Boucher Bowl. Right. That was picked up and advertised nationally by ESPN. The Adidas donated the uniforms so that they look like.
Because they look like they was from Waterboard.
Yes.
Okay,
that was it.
Now.
Yeah.
So wait, who'd y'all play? Catholic or somebody?
Oh no, it was somebody local. We beat the heck out of them.
Yeah, listen, that team, by the way, the one, I guess the game I called, you had 18 guys go major D1, not just like the Furmans of the world. We're talking like the Alabamas, Christian Harris. I mean, A&M, Florida, Clemson, LSU.
Yeah. If you looked at the seniors, the juniors, and the sophomores, it was probably about that 15 to 17 D1 athletes.
Well, you were an athlete yourself. Yeah. I played a lot of basketball with you against you in college, and you were a tough guard. I think you could describe me as scrappy, but we had some battle shooting. But that's you back in high school. Talk about your high school career.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to play under Coach Gerald.
That's a great shot, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. Coach Gerald Furr, who's a long-time revered coach, and was fortunate enough to win back-to-back state championships back in the 80s.
That's amazing.
As a junior, Oliver Brown, who played at LSU.
Oliver Brown, right.
Saw him the other day, and so as a junior, he was a senior. We won it that year, and then we came back the next year when because we had 4 senior starters, and I was the only returning starter for my senior year.
Y'all won it again that year?
We won it again.
Wow.
With four guys who hadn't started, so we won it back to back.
So Oliver, I think, is my year. Was he the class?
Yes, that's right.
He was a great player, man.
He was.
He was an unsung player, a guy that in high school was great, but in college he did all the things that don't always show up in the box score.
Smart. Yeah.
What made you get into what you do now? Like we mentioned the billboards. I have to bring them up because if you go from Baton Rouge to Texas, basically, Lake Charles and beyond,
it's everywhere.
They're everywhere. And we got some shots of them, and I think they're great. I mean, I've seen a million of them, but talk about how that has helped your career.
Oh, yeah.
And what is this one about, by the way?
LAE Avocat. That's my marketing department. A lady named Emily came up with the idea, and it really drives people crazy because why would a lawyer put his face in the inside of an avocado where the pit is, right?
Right.
But LAE Avocat is French for lawyer or avocado, and it's just a great play on words, right? It's good either way. So
no, I got it.
It really, these are just.
But you have fun ones.
Oh, I have fun with all this stuff.
No, they're fun. I mean, listen, and you stand. This is what I love. The truck is outside the billboard, and you're standing on the truck outside.
Yeah, that was a nationally acclaimed billboard that gathered a lot of interest nationwide, just because of the amount of money and what you're seeing that costs to do it, and it really got people's attention. Maybe too much sometimes, Well,
you're becoming famous for it. That's the one I remember the most. I've seen that a lot. But you become famous. People are starting to defame them a little bit, maybe a little vandalism.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's fun, though. They throw some glasses on you with the mustache.
Fun. Yeah, it's all in good fun. It's just about.
And this is Top Gun?
Yeah, that was funny. That was last summer when Top Gun came out, so we did that. And
is that your real mustache, or is that?
No, that's a fake one. I could grow a mustache, but yeah.
Somebody comes up there and does it?
I know, isn't that great? Yeah.
In there. Now you've got memes.
I know. Yeah, it's kind of taking a life of its own, and we'd like to have fun with all of it. Never take yourself too seriously.
You don't, and I appreciate that. You've done something for LSU. I remember us talking a couple years ago, really just a year and a half ago, when I was at WWL and NIL had just come around, and I'm like thinking, and we had Alabama guest on, Saban was on, and he's talking about it, and I was thinking, who's doing this at LSU? Because I know A&M, everybody knew about Jimbo Fisher and the $35 million war chest, whatever that was.
Yep.
And of course, Georgia has taken advantage of it with a couple of national championships. But I remember thinking, I said, who's doing it? And you said you didn't think anybody was. And I said, well, can you find out, or you do it? And then the next thing I know, here you are. Yeah. So let's talk about how that started for you.
Yeah, wasn't planning on doing it.
Name, imaging, likeness.
Yeah, name, imaging, likeness. Wasn't planning on doing it, and I think LSU was a little late to the game. Nobody's fault, but you have a change of coaches, O's gone, and things are kind of in a little bit of disarray. So I had said that. I think there was a struggle between maybe Tiger Athletic Foundation and the name, image, and likeness people, what was going to happen there. But all that's been well worked out, and I think LSU's in a really good spot where they're headed now. But as for me, I had met Coach Mulkey, Kim Mulkey, right? Yeah. Who's become a dear friend, and we actually are partners together, so to speak.
That's awesome.
She endorses my company, and she reached out to me and said, I want to eat lunch with you. I want to talk to you. And basically what she did is just told me her story and said, I'd like your help. And I'd like your help now because I can't wait. And we need to raise money for the women's program now, and I can't wait. And that was basically her push.
That sounds like Kim, man. She's aggressive, and that she knows what she wants.
Straight up front with you, very honest. We shared a lot of the same values and all that. And through the course of that lunch conversation, in my mind, I got the idea, well, I just don't want to write a check. I'd like to partner with her, right? And I'd like to also partner somehow with the women's basketball team because I'd watched her back in the day at La Tech.
Yeah, let me start here with you because let people know. Kim Mulkey is an Olympic gold medalist, starter on the Olympic team the same year Michael Jordan did, 1984. National champion at Louisiana Tech, All-American basketball player herself. A national champion as a coach at Baylor, and all of a sudden this year, in her second year, she's at LSU. I don't know what the wins are, but I know the losses are won.
That's right.
And that's South Carolina, the best team in the country, and they went on the road. But every other game she's won, and she's in the top 4 on a program that had kind of gone down. So that's what I wanted to give the background. So now finish your talk.
Yeah, so when you meet her, she's that dynamic of a person. You begin to understand why she's successful.
Great.
And what her pedigree means. And I'd done my research on her like you, so I knew she had a pedigree. And then you meet her, and you're just kind of overwhelmed with how passionate she is and how authentic she is. And I just said, Coach, look, I'll figure it all out as long as I can partner with you somehow. And she made me chase her for a while. I mean, she's like, I know what you do, and you're one of those lawyers and stuff. But I said, that's fine. Take some time, get to know me.
One of those lawyers.
Yeah, let me show you what I'm about. And so we just started a slow courtship. And through watching her that season, I started asking around about different players on her team that might be a good time for an NIL deal because it had just come out.
Great.
And looking through it and learning about the different women on the team, there was one, Alexis Morris, who had a really neat story, right? And Alexis had been with her before. Coach Mulkey had to get rid of her, kick her off the team.
Kicked her off the team at Baylor.
Yeah, that's right.
At Baylor, right?
That's right. And so she went on her own journey to reestablish and find herself, made her way back to LSU. And I love, as a Christian, I love in the story of redemption, right? Anytime you're willing to forgive someone, give them a second chance. That's what Coach Mulkey did. Met Alexis, she was great. And I said, look, this will be my first one. I always kind of like when I'm trying to market to try to do a little bit against the grain. So everybody
I love that this is a women's basketball player.
Oh yeah, everybody would expect me to go and sign the quarterback, right? Of LSU.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna go sign a women's basketball player who's had checkered past.
I love the story.
And so
I do.
Went and did that, and that was early December of 2021.
Yeah.
And just kind of made a little pop, and people started asking questions why. And then literally about 3-4 weeks later, I was duck hunting in Kansas, and we were sitting around, all of a sudden these stories started breaking. We started getting texts from the Coladas and the Mosconas and all those guys, the Baton Rouge sports beat, that Keishon Butte's jumping. He's jumping
he was going to leave, right.
a rival school, and they put the full court press on him because they're low on receivers.
Was it Alabama?
It was Alabama. Yeah. And someone better do something. My brother-in-law, Mark Field, who's a doctor, the team doctor for LSU.
I've known him for a long time.
Yeah, started kind of egging me. You can't let that happen. You can't let that happen. And maybe one or too many drinks and a bunch of guys around, and I kind of sent something out. I'll go try to get them. And from there it took off.
This is crazy, though, because just how recent this is.
Yeah.
Because we're just talking a little bit over a year from today.
That's right.
That's nuts, because we would have thought most people in their heads would have said, oh, they've had to be doing this for a year and a half, before at least 2 football seasons, right? So this just started. So that snowballed, didn't it?
It did.
And talk about what's happened since then.
Well, I don't tend to do anything lightly. I don't.
I know that.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't have to do something. I tell my wife that all the time. Don't ask for my help. I don't have to help you, but if you do ask me, it's coming.
It's coming.
And when it comes, it's full force. And so, just like most of my marketing, once I get into something, I just dive in as deep as I can. And it started from just Keishon, and then started bridging out, and I started looking, where are other good stories on the team, right? Or in different teams around the state, and now we've signed people
around the state, which I love.
Right, around the state. I always look for those stories of inspiration or someone who's trending a lot, and if they are, then we jump in. So, for example, I guess last year for LSU, we probably had 17 football players.
Well, who are the next ones? I'm just curious, because I know you got some during the season, I imagine, but who are like the ones that came before? Is there any more before the season? Here's a big roster of you guys.
Yeah, so we had Greg Brooks was definitely before the season. John Emery was before the season.
Yes.
Malik Neighbors was before the season. Mason Smith would have probably been summer. Jaquelin Roy would have been summer.
These are all. Most of these are NFL players.
Yeah, they're
they are
good
NFL
players.
type players. I remember Jaquelin Roy. I called that game for U High.
Yeah.
He was the best feet for a big guy I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's him right there.
That's Big J. Roy. That's right.
Mason Smith was hurt most of the season.
Great
that
player.
Guy, it could be a top 5 pick. Somebody said that he was the best player on LSU last year before the season.
Yeah, and it's funny when you get to know these players.
Ojulari.
Yeah, you'll ask. Like I asked Malik a few months back about Mason. I said, he's that good? And he goes, you don't understand how they have to control him in practice, and literally they don't let him attack the ball. Right? Because when he wants to, he just beats them every single time. I said, you're saying he's beating Will Campbell, Emery? Yeah, all of them. He's that good.
He's that good.
Yeah, he is that good.
Well, another one, Jason Taylor, the NFL, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Jason Taylor's son was a freshman, a true freshman.
That's right.
And he got the big touchdown against Alabama. That had to make you feel good. When you see these guys, not just because they're your guy, but these are guys you're getting to know as people, as human beings, and there's that touchdown.
Yeah, so that's a great story. So I hadn't signed Mason, Jaden at that point.
Jaden Daniels, we were talking about the quarterback.
Right, so watching that game and seeing what it was about, as soon as the game is going, I texted Coach Kelly.
Both of them right together.
Oh, yeah.
How about that?
That's right. So that's where this came from.
Jaden and Mason.
As soon as the game ended, I texted Coach Kelly. Literally as the game was going, I said, "You've got some big, great call. Congratulations." That. And the next thing I texted to my marketing department, I said, "I want to get Jaden and Mason now this week." Because immediately hit me the winning connection. I said, the winning combination.
So you didn't even have them signed yet?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Okay.
I just sent to my marketing department. I said, we want them in a commercial. We want to use them immediately starting this week while everybody's just as high as they can be on it. So literally the next day, start reaching out to find their representatives. And within a few days, had them both signed and started that campaign, the winning connection.
Well, that moment, I think we have a shot of Jaden scoring the 2-point conversion and looking back at the Alabama guy and kind of smiling.
Yeah.
We had done a day game, and I'm with Tim Brando at some hotel bar in Kansas. And so we jumped on the bar. Me and Spencer Tillman was looking at us like, what are y'all doing? And we started cabbage patching up there like, go Tigers, go. I shouldn't say that. Brando's supposed to be non-anything, but he was all about it.
Oh, yeah.
And so what were you doing around that moment?
Yeah, I was in the stadium, same thing.
One of the great moments in LSU history to me.
It really was. So on the first quarter I watched on the field, right down there, saw the first interception, which really, we don't get that interception.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And maybe it's a different game. Felt that energy. It was down, while they warmed up, and then went up to watch it in the stadium. And just like everybody else, a game of a lifetime. Really is. Maybe the best game in Tiger City.
I remember watching the 97 Florida game with guys from LSU in Atlanta. And, I was with guys, like Guglielmo, Kerry Guglielmo, and Billy Maxwell, and Jeff Terry, all these guys, and we were going nuts. But the game that I remember, there's a lot in the 80s because Hodson's team's really good. Right. Obviously, the earthquake game. Right. But the one that I think all the time is the 07 Florida game when Tebow did the phone thing like this, and he was taunting the crowd because they had gotten his number and prank called him all week.
Which is great, huh?
And that was just
that's
like
what college football is, right?
I just remember, for you, what are those great game memories that you think off the top of your head?
Earthquake game, right? Yes, for certain. The Florida game when we defeated them
when they were number 1.
Yes. Yeah. In this Alabama game.
In this Alabama game, those are the ones. What about any other sport? Like the first thing that comes?
Basketball game. Loyola Marymount.
Okay.
When we did that game, that 140,
149 and 141 or something. Yeah.
That one. Seeing Chris Jackson, the first time.
Who's that?
Chris Jackson.
Oh yes.
Seeing him for the first time, hearing about this little 5'11" guard and watching what he could do.
Dude, I say this all the time. Pistol Pete's my favorite player. I didn't see him in college. I saw 5 years of him in that dome right behind you. And also, before Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul-Aruf, there was, for me, James Worthy, because I love Carolina. He was the great. Yeah. But when I saw Chris Jackson, I'm in D.C. at that time, and then I come back for law school. Yeah. I'm like, this dude is the most electric human player I've ever seen. He's still to this day, I think so.
Yeah, he was great.
And the Warren Boris home run to me, 96. Yeah. Because that's like a hit that you're just hoping they stay alive with 2 outs or down 1. Yeah. And you think it's going to hit the wall. We might tie the game, all of a sudden you win.
That's right.
World Series. Yeah. But speaking of baseball, I got one more thing. You have Trey Morgan, don't you?
I do.
A New Orleans guy. I got to bring that up. He's phenomenal.
Great guy.
Brother Martin.
All around, yes.
Good family, that whole deal.
Everything. Met his parents recently at the baseball banquet. Great people, and I understand why Trey's successful and is going to be successful. And that was one of those things. I went to the baseball banquet last year saying, okay, I start doing some NIL. Maybe there will be someone here tonight. And I walked in. I can remember walking down the hallway, and out of my left eye, I just saw this blonde. And I looked up and I watched him. I said, and he turned, he laughed, and a big smile. And I turned to my wife and said, Shannon, I'm signing him.
And dude, that's an awesome story right there. And I could be remiss not to bring up Angel Reese because you brought up your first player, Alexis Morris. But Angel Reese had set a record for double-doubles consecutive. I mean, this is a true superstar.
She is. She's the Bayou Barbie. She is great. I've gotten to know her well. She's authentic, and she actually wants to be in sportscasting. I didn't know if you know that.
Bring her on the show.
Yeah, she is great. So I do a little grubbing series. We go to restaurants and we talk. And I went to her favorite restaurant, Phil's, in Baton Rouge. And so I said, all right, Angel, you got 1 minute right now. Interview me, with no warning. And you need to watch that video for that 1 minute. How good she was, the questions she thought up, and the way she hit it. She's going to be great.
Let's get her down here right when the season ends. I'm going to get Kim back,
She is so good.
Hey, we give gifts down here, Task Performance. This is a
I love
guy,
Task.
But
great
do you
stuff.
wear it?
I do.
Okay.
I don't have that shirt.
I didn't prompt him.
No.
He loves Task Performance.
I can show you.
If the people haven't worn it, once they touch it and put it on,
it's so soft.
they know.
Yeah.
But this is a new color. I don't
have this color.
Yeah, that's a brand new one.
And I wear this. I was just back from Colorado yesterday.
You're gonna like
this is a layer that I use a lot.
And when you get down here, come to Shays de la Shays. That's an LSU guy. The guy used to run Jubin's. Yeah. Well, he was a waiter and manager. Evan Hayes. Yeah. He earns that. But yeah,
well, very kind.
Hey, we're gonna keep you first. I think I'm gonna have Mike Arata, the Tulane guy. We're gonna bring him on and then bring you right back. We sign things here. This is a tradition. The post COVID. Got Kelly Gibson right there. You know the golfer?
Yes, I do.
I got you a space right up in here.
I know. I like to. If I was getting this ball for the first time, it would be so big.
Because that's why I would
embarrass
like Miles Brennan. Bobby Hebert is the one that has the biggest autographs. Like he has the big one because he starts. He's.
That's all you get is a G.
I get a G.
That's all the G. That's how I sign everything.
That's how you sign everything?
That's how I sign everything.
Is that Get Gordon?
That is. That's
Get
the G.
Gordon in the G.
Yeah.
We're going to bring Gordon back in a little bit. But, hey, next we got my man Mike Arata. He's doing the same thing Gordon is for LSU. He's doing it for Tulane, the Green Wave. And how about that 12-2 season they had, capped by that phenomenal Cotton Bowl victory. They finished ahead of LSU this year. Number 9 in the country. Got a little laughter from Gordon, but facts are facts. And we're coming right back with Mike Arata on Primetime Sports. Stay tuned.
Yeah, you like that?
The owners of the Delachaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachaise, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachaise, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At the mid-city lanes, the home of rock and roll.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese.
Of course. It's okay. I'll take it from here.
Hey, you think I get a seat?
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Like I said earlier, there are some times you have inventions you take for granted, and air conditioning is one of them. But I'll tell you what, we're going to power on through. We got my next guest, Gordon McKernan, was great. But now we're moving on to the Tulane Green Wave side of things, and we're going to tell that story. Former Green Wave football player and De La Salle graduate Mike Arata is joining us right now to talk about how NIL started with them. Of course, that's name, image, and likeness. And here he is right now, a guy I've known for at least 40 years. I hate to even think I'm that old. I must have met you when I was 2 years old, huh, Mike?
We did.
Good to see you,
Great to
bro.
see you, brother. Thank
How
you so
been,
much.
man?
I've been wonderful, Scott. And I got to tell you, I hadn't watched the segment with Gordon. That was fantastic, and it's wonderful to follow him. But I wanted to say this: I want to thank you for the work that you've been doing for sports in New Orleans and Louisiana.
Well, thank you.
You have been a champion of Tulane, LSU, rugby,
UNO?
UNO, sports, and really, you've made a real impact on our city and our community. And I got to tell you, not only from me, from the Tulane aspect, from everybody who does sports in New Orleans, we really are grateful.
Well,
So
thank you, buddy. Appreciate
Absolutely,
that
man.
very much. I love sports.
Honored to be on.
And I grew up here. I grew up as a New Orleanian. I love everything about New Orleans sports.
Yeah.
And, I'm an LSU and Tulane guy. I grew up more Tulane, then went to LSU. My brother went before me, so I fell in love with them probably in early junior high.
Yeah.
But still, I love them both, and I love, obviously, Saints and Pelicans. And before that,
How
it was
can you
our
not?
New Orleans Jazz. You remember them?
Absolutely. Well, you have Pistol Pete's book right there, and it's one of the great joys. If you're old enough to remember Pistol Pete playing in the Superdome for the Jazz, or if you're old enough to watch him actually from an LSU standpoint, it's even better.
Well, I'm not old enough for that one, but I do remember before they played in the Dome, they were at the Loyola Fieldhouse for half the year, and the other half they played at the Municipal Auditorium that very first year before the Dome was built.
Good call.
You were
Good
a little
call.
tight.
Yes.
So I've known you for a long time. Obviously, you're a great athlete in high school and college. Let's talk about that, because I go back and like the first time, there's you at De La Salle on the football team. The first time I have a guest on, I like to get to know them as a person, or get the viewing audience to know you. So, growing up in New Orleans, who did you love and root for back in the day?
Archie Manning.
Yeah.
Right?
He was the first.
He was the first, right?
Yes,
so
he was.
for people from our generation, Scott, Archie Manning was really kind of the pivotal football
And
player.
there he is right there.
Actually, yeah. So that's
a recent Archie Manning.
That's Archie, and Cooper Manning's in there as well. That was a special day. That was the day that we surprised Devin Walker, former Tulane football player, with a trip to the Cotton Bowl. And Archie, I got to tell you, one thing about the college football family, Archie and I know each other socially. but we're both college football players, and that guy loves college football.
He does.
He would do anything to support college football, and that was a real honor. That was a special day for us.
You know, back to Archie as a player, though, like I'm not old enough to remember Archie nor Pistol as a college player, right?
Right.
But I've seen highlights of both, many highlights. I've looked at full games of Pistol, and I've seen a lot of Archie, and some say, and including the guy I work with every weekend, Tim Brando, that he's the best college football player he's ever seen.
Wow.
Now, difference in the pros, because that college game back then, the running style that Archie had, like he could run, you know, like Steve Young or any of these great running quarterbacks today, but that gets you hurt in the NFL. Now they have offenses tailored just for that and stuff. But Archie and Pistol were the guys.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny. So as a defensive back, one of the people who I also kind of looked up to, and some of my teammates used to joke about this, like I loved Jack Tatum, who they call the assassin.
There's nothing wrong with Jack Tatum.
Right.
I mean, he was dirty, but you know what?
Hard hitting.
He was hard hitting.
Hard hitting.
They called me the assassin.
Right.
And I remember him well. That's certainly my era. The Oakland Raiders.
Yep.
The whole defense. I mean, they were always the most penalized team.
They were rough.
He knocked many a player out of a game and some out of a career. But Jack Tatum and George Atkinson were two guys that could
brutal
knock you
hitters.
silly.
And so, you know, kind of growing up that way, thinking like that's the way that I can make an impact on a football game, is to really throw myself into it and crash into the line, and you know, because we had a classmate at De La Salle.
There are you right there, 35.
Yep, actually, and that's one of our both one of our friends, Harrison Wenzel.
You're a physical football player.
Yep, that's me crashing into That's me about to take down Harvey Williams.
Harvey Williams, 22 from Hempstead, Texas.
Yep.
I remember when he took his knee and without a hit in the dome, he got his caught in the turf, and all of a sudden his knee went one way and the rest of his body went the other way.
Yeah, it was brutal. I was in '87.
I remember watching it vividly.
Yeah, it was horrible.
But as a player, you might have been thrown out of a few games today. Because the way
Scott, please.
The only reason I say this is the way that we were taught back then is not legal. That's
correct.
A lead with your head. That's what we were all taught.
This part of the helmet was the most valuable part of the helmet for us right here. And
everybody did it.
And so no one can do that anymore.
And you can't do it anymore. So it takes a little bit away from those hard-hitting safeties. The guys like we remember Gary Fensick and Ronnie Lott. I mean, some of the great ones.
So listen, Chris Carrier from our generation at LSU.
Carrier, yes.
So when we played LSU in 1986, Chris Carrier put a hit on one of our guys, and he carted him off. And it's funny. I wish we had this photograph, but they packed They packed him up in this little chair, strapped him to the chair, and wheeled him off. Yeah, I was like, wow.
It's a little different bound.
Yes.
Now they got a nice little couch they bring out for you. Yeah.
That's correct.
But back in the day, your memories of playing, you had the great Mac Brown as your coach.
Yep.
Mac Brown got his start. There he is right there.
Yep.
Mac Brown had been at LSU, then Oklahoma briefly as assistants, right? And because he was with my friend Spencer Tillman, who I work with, and there's Mac with you again.
Yep.
But Mac went on, obviously, to go to North Carolina, had a great thing. He won a national championship with Texas, went on to call games with ESPN, and now he's back coaching. But what a great mentor for you.
He was spectacular. He's still a dear friend and been an important factor in our lives. In fact, so you have Terrence Jones' signature on this helmet here.
Yes.
And that's Terrence and I standing next to Mac when Mac came back for the Hall of Fame tour he did.
Terrence is on the left, far left,
correct.
right there.
Yep. And so those two guys on either side of me have been stalwarts and real concrete, solid foundations in my life. Mac teaching us all kind of going from being young guys to really what it's like to be a man, to really understand what it is to be responsible, to have discipline in your life. And Terrence really embodies this sense of he welcomed everybody onto the team. He was the best guy on the team, but he wanted everybody to be as good as they possibly could be so that he could achieve what he needed to achieve. And he was the first guy I ever really competed with as a teammate, Scott, that cared as much or as sometimes more than the other players to make sure that they were doing their very best. So because he knew for me to achieve and to excel like he wanted to excel, he needed everybody to.
And for those of you who don't know, Terrence was a star quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in Tulane history back in the day.
Yep.
Since you just said it, it reminded me of a funny story because I think he's as class act as they come.
He is.
I think he's a sharp guy. He's been on the show, like you said. But Terrence, I saw him last St. Patty's Day. That corner, fourth and third and Magazine, right? packed like crazy. So there's an old New Orleans player who I still don't know who he is, but he obviously was great in high school. And he shows, I think he went to Rice.
Okay.
But he was drunk. And he comes up, and I'm talking to Terrence at this place. And he puts his arm around Terrence, and he looks at me and goes, "Oh, Arata, where you been, man?" And Terrence is like, "Where's Arata?" And he goes, "He's right there." I said, "Me?" I said, "I'm not Mike Arata." And Terrence is just laughing his butt off. He goes, "That ain't Arata."
That's funny.
Oh,
That's
my
funny.
goodness.
Yeah, he's a special guy. He and I've literally one of the first people to welcome me as a Tulane football player, and still one of my dearest friends.
You're still doing athletics, though. This blows my mind. I saw you on Facebook. You're in like the Masters, I guess, the 50s plus age group,
Yes.
and you're winning all these events. There's you in a long jump.
Yep.
Kind of tell us about this, what it is, and how you're staying so active.
So I'll tell you the story about this. So my dad was a Hall of Fame track athlete at Loyola, and I was always fast. That was one of the things I was able to do. And in college, I got to mess around with running and throwing the javelin and throwing the discus and doing some stuff in college. But my dad passed away in January of 2017, and I was already working out and keeping in shape. And I thought to myself, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to compete again. And I really want to compete again because I wanted my kids to know me like I knew my dad.
It's inspirational.
It really was.
It's inspirational, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it got a bunch of us thinking. But we thought about it for a little while. And we're like, okay, we can't do this.
And so that's actually, so that photograph really tells you everything about why I did it. I wanted those guys to know me kind of how I always envisioned myself. Athletic, disciplined, showing them that hard work really makes a difference in your life. And I got to tell you, I think it worked. You know, I'll tell you a quick funny story. So I was at LSU in the indoor track facility there.
Yeah.
It's the best in the country,
Okay.
right? It's magnificent. Tore my Achilles tendon in the long jump, but I wanted to compete and complete the event. It was a pentathlon. It was 5 events in one day. And so I was running the 1500, and we were running it inside. And as I was running it, I was not doing well because I had a torn Achilles tendon, but I wouldn't quit.
Yeah.
And my wife and my kids were standing there, and they were videoing it. And I didn't know this when they were videoing it because they would cheer me on as I passed.
Yeah.
But as I watched the video later, my kids would look at my wife and say, "Why is Daddy going so slow?"
That's pretty funny.
It is.
From the mouths of babes.
From the mouths of babes.
So real quick, also you did a lot of acting in your life, which I
Yes.
think is very fascinating. I have a good friend named John Meese from college who went out to LA.
He did great.
And we're still talking all the time.
Yep.
But you know, I know you got your hand in it, and I know some shows I saw one picture. Was it from JFK maybe?
Yes, that's Sissy Spacek and her daughter.
With the blonde hair. There she is. Is that Eb Garrison?
That's Eb Garrison, yeah.
Oh my God.
That's why I put that picture up there.
Well,
you know
Eb's
that.
dad was a good friend of my father's, Jim Garrison.
Yep.
And that movie, Kevin Costner plays Jim Garrison. My aunt was in the movie as Jim Garrison's secretary with the big red hair.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah, Helen Miller, and that's my dad's sister.
I didn't know that.
So that's why she was in it, because they were friends. But yeah, that's a small world. What is this? That's Gene Hackman
That's
in the back.
Gene Hackman. That's Runaway Jury.
Oh my gosh, what another good movie.
Yep.
I love that one. Okay, and what is this one?
That's Burt Reynolds in a movie we did called Deal. It was about Texas Hold'em.
Burt Reynolds.
Yep.
I can see the toupee
So
now.
I got to tell you, exactly.
toupee.
So you know it was funny. So he was friends with Vince Gibson. This is the small world.
Former Tulane coach.
Former Tulane football coach,
Yeah.
Vince Gibson, and Vince Gibson and Burt wanted to have lunch, and they invited one of their friends in town and another Florida State guy, Mac Brown.
Wow.
And so all of the worlds connected, and it was a lot of fun.
All you needed was Lee Corso there.
You needed Lee Corso, absolutely. So it was fun, and I love that. That actually started in college and in law school. I was doing plays, and one thing kind of led to another. I've done 70 movies.
70 movies.
Yeah,
Are you still doing this at all?
You know, not as much as I used to. With kids, I don't have as much time as I used to, and I don't travel as much.
You miss it?
I do. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's again one of those things where you're like. It's a blast, right? It's just a total blast. So
one of your careers is also an attorney, and that's going to segue to what we want to talk about today. Because the name, image, and likeness, otherwise known as NIL, is in full force. And I know schools, I mentioned this to Gordon, like Alabama and Georgia and A&M got a big head start, and LSU is still a little bit behind, you know, but they are behind, but they're catching up rapidly.
Yeah.
Now Tulane I remember thinking about what is Tulane going to do with this, because it's a different kind of atmosphere. Academics is more important than athletics, let's be honest, and it should be.
Yep.
But the facts are, Tulane has a burgeoning athletic program. And so I want you to tell me how this all began with the Green Wave.
All right. So I think it's a good story. So a year ago, about a year and a half ago, I was invited to travel with the team to watch them play SMU and in Dallas.
Right.
And Sonny Dykes was the coach at SMU. They were having a fantastic year.
TCU's coach right now.
TCU's coach right now.
Yeah.
We were not having a great year. We were having a challenge year. This is when we got evacuated after Hurricane Ida.
Yes.
And so anyway, we went to SMU, and if you remember this, Scott, the talk was we're going to have SMU had each one of their players got $36,000 a year.
Each player.
Each player. Texas A&M had some gazillion-dollar fund, and the University of Texas was giving all of their athletes brand new suits and $5,000. So anyway, we got crushed at SMU. It was a very difficult game, very, very, very tough game for us. As I was getting back on the plane, with all that in my mind, I asked the athletic director,
Troy Dannon.
Yes. What are we doing about NIL? And he said, Michael, you need to talk to the coach. So I leaned over and I said, Coach, what are we doing about NIL? Is anything happening? And he says, you're the one who's going to do it.
Oh my goodness, so that's how it started, literally a year and a half ago.
Yes. And so
really, a year and a half ago?
September of 2021.
So is that why they're good in 2022? Not good, great. I mean,
they were
great.
incredible.
Yes.
I think, you know what, listen, so this is what I think NIL did for Tulane. It gave players, because our deals were not mega deals, right? We had very, very, very modest NIL deals. Now,
What's modest mean?
A couple $100.
So that was a full deal for the best players. Okay.
For every player. We tried to make sure that everybody felt like they were engaged, and so we would offer the players NIL opportunities, and it would be a social media tweet or a personal appearance, and we'd literally say, we have a couple $100, come meet and we'll sign autographs or do a social media tweet. And I got to tell you, Scott, at first I thought to myself, this is never really going to work.
Yeah.
Every single player to a person was the most just gracious, thankful, and it was like a validation to them. They didn't care what the amount of money was. They were part of the program.
Well, let's see how this has grown, though, because I know it's not just 200 anymore, at least for some players.
Correct.
Because Michael Pratt had an opportunity to go to the University of Florida and play in the SEC for his home state. So
Correct.
It's not like he would be going kind of back home. He's from Boca, but Gainesville's not far.
Yeah.
So I know Michael is a guy that is instrumental and integral to this team's success.
Yeah, he's
one
important.
of the many. But how did y'all keep him here?
So
besides his love for Tulane, I know he wanted to be.
So
here.
I was going to say this. So this wasn't a single effort by us, but we were very involved in the process.
Right.
And Michael wanted to make his legacy at Tulane.
Yes.
I think that's equally important as the NIL stuff.
100%.
So he's going to finish his career as the greatest quarterback Tulane's ever had.
Yes.
He's going to finish his career.
I agree with you.
So but also, Scott, you're right. So I remember seeing during this process, Michael Pratt had a Florida T-shirt on as a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah.
It was in his heart. Yeah. Right? So I think when that call comes, you've got to take it seriously. And so we did. So we decided to start a process with Michael Pratt where we do charity events, and he takes part in all of our charity events. And when he does, he is, it's significantly above where we started. We've graduated, and so he's graduated, right? We've elevated our NIL process, and so he's been one of the top people.
This is kind of a no-brainer question, but a season like this makes it a little bit easier. You go from 2-10 to 12-2, ranked 9th in the country. I would imagine that alumni, now that they'd be maybe calling you instead of you calling them. Is that true?
Absolutely. So when the process started, you're from New Orleans, you have a Rolodex. I knew a lot of people from here. I knew a lot of Tulane people. I called the Tulane people who I knew and a bunch of my teammates, and I engaged my teammates. I said, this is going to work. Let's make it work the way we want it to do it. And everybody had the same response. Tell me a little bit about NIL.
Right.
What is it really going to be? I don't want to pay the players, Michael. Why are we paying the players? They're at Tulane. Their scholarship's worth $80,000.
It's not a 4-year degree. It's a 40-year scholarship.
All of that stuff, right? And so I heard all that stuff when we beat Cincinnati.
On the road.
They had a
30-something game win streak at home.
I got to tell you, sea change.
It changed.
Sea change overnight.
And then it had to keep going
overnight.
With the UCF championship game victory.
And then after the Cotton Bowl.
I
think so it was transformative. Beating Cincinnati in Cincinnati with a 32-game win streak on the road was transformative to Tulane.
You see this guy, Willie Fritz, right here?
I love him.
I want to talk about him because he's one of my favorite dudes.
Me too.
I love him. I see him at all the basketball games. I've been to 10 games this year. But I like sports, and I like guys that appreciate being in New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
This guy loves being here. He's not from here. He's from Kansas, coached in Texas, coached in Georgia. He's probably coached other places. But the fact is he came here, and he could have gone to Georgia Tech. Let's be honest. He could have gone to Georgia Tech, and that's an ACC school. Talk about the loyalty that he has and the kind of person he is.
I'm going to give you two quick things. He says this to me. He says this to other people, and I think this gets to his core. I'm an old JUCO coach, and I used to drive the bus for the JUCO players.
Yeah.
So that's his mentality. He comes to his job like that. Like I know I'm successful right now, but he comes from a place where like I know what it's like to work hard, and I'm not afraid to work hard. And then the second thing about him is he's a family man. And it transcends not only his family, but his football family, Scott. And I think those two things, his character and his grit are grounded in his hard work ethic, and then his real family ethos, right? Those are the two things that I think make him special. He is special. I got to tell you, the greatest football coach Tulane's ever had.
He's a phenomenal guy, man.
He's a phenomenal guy.
That celebration on the field, you were probably 6 maybe when Tulane beat LSU 14-0.
Yes.
I was one of the guys on my brother's shoulders,
that's awesome.
right at the chain link fence, getting a chin strap from Mark Oliveri. And I still have it. It's a cloth, gray cloth. But that I wasn't at this game right here because I was doing my own championship game in Boise. But the fact is I was so sad not to be on that field with those guys. And Tyjae Spears said it best. He had fellow college students and 80-year-old men who remember the bad days and some good days, but mostly bad days over the years. And he said it was just the warmest feeling he's ever had in his life.
The Tulane president, who's not known for being ebullient,
Fitz, right?
Yeah. Mike Fitz said everybody went crazy, including the president of Tulane University. Right?
I see him getting excited at some things.
Oh, he was at the basketball game the other day, right?
I see him.
He had a fantastic time.
He always seems excited when he introduced a new coach, but hopefully they won't be having to do that for a while, right?
I hope so.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you, we're going to have you back with Gordon for a little bit, but
I'd love it.
We give gifts here. This is a place right on Tulane's campus, Shays de la Shays, just a few blocks away by Starbucks over there. And also you can use it at De La Shays on St. Charles.
Fantastic.
It's a gift certificate. And Tulane graduate Al Andrews started, this company. It's called Task Performance, the softest shirt you'll ever put on, all natural fibers.
That's awesome.
And there you go, my man. And Scott, we have a tradition here where we sign the ball, sharp end first because we're running out of space here.
You got it.
But sign that ball, and I want to thank you. We're going to keep him here real quick, and I'm going to bring back Gordon McKernan and just talk real quick about the two of them together. I want them to chat about, NIL, LSU versus Tulane. They've never met each other till today, so I think this will be interesting. We'll be right back on Primetime Sports.
Sundays at 6:30 p.m.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. And now that I've had Gordon McKernan and Mike Arata, I wanted them to come together. This is the first time they've met, and I wanted them to talk about what they do together and how they started. But Gordon, let's start with you real quick. Yeah. When you talked about starting the NIL, it was unknown territory, and I want you kind of to say to each other, like, the thoughts you had going in, like, you even talked about how, Michael, you talked to different other former players and former alum, and they were all like, I'm not so sure. But let's start with you as far as the landscape, in your opinion, and you two kind of bantered back and forth about it.
I had no idea what to expect, right? Yeah. As I've mentioned, it was just a hunting trip, a bunch of guys, and someone's trying to poach our star player. And I don't like if someone ever punches me in the face, and I consider doing that to LSU a punch in the face.
Especially Alabama doing it.
You better get ready because I'm going to swing it back hard as I can, right? So I just jumped in without really thinking, more an emotional gut decision. I'm not letting this happen. Someone needs to send a message that our players are not for poach.
And yours the same way. Yours was a gut thing because you just got punched in the mouth by SMU. And by the way, you took up. Y'all punched them right back on Thursday night. Like we scored like 60-something points, right? But you were embarrassed, right? And you were like, what's going on here?
And that's actually what I loved about Gordon and listening to his story today, Scott, was that it was so reminiscent of what we went through in September of 2021. That coming off the SMU game, feeling like we were being humiliated and realizing like, hey, that's over. That's over. And so we didn't have an NIL program. The day after the SMU game, we had an NIL program. And it started small, but it's grown and grown and grown. And what I also love, Gordon, what you did, and I really commend you for this. And I told Scott this, and you heard us when we were talking. Scott's really been a champion in New Orleans sports. I'm a sports guy, and you can tell you have sports as a passion, right? And so anybody who lives like we have lived, where sports have been an integral part of our lives, being involved with other athletes is exciting. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but being involved with the athletes is, because the NIL stuff is hard. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Being involved with the athletes makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, great stories and great friendships you develop. There are funny stories along the way. A lot of these guys like to drive fast in their cars and get lots of speeding tickets. And it seems like I have a ticket department now. I swear.
Well, I want to ask you both this because you both, when you get into this, you don't know what really it's about, but the players themselves, I have so many of the Tulane guys on, and most of the time I have the LSU guys after the season. But people don't realize how great these people are. I mean, honestly, and I want you to, from the heart, because look, I've had Nick Anderson, I've had obviously Pratt and Tyjae Spears, and the list goes on. I've had most of the great players on the team, but they're not just good players. They're phenomenal human beings, and I don't think most people out there realize that.
Yeah, I think for us, what's been important for our NIL collective is that we are charity-based. So our players, in order to participate in our program, have to be involved in a charity. Yeah. Right? They have to be involved in an event. And we realized very quickly that we wouldn't need to pay them NIL money. They would do it anyway. And
the charity part.
The charity part. Right. They love it. They're committed to it. And to a person, and I think you can say this, I think that's a reflection of the coach. The coach brings in fantastic people because he's got great character. And, my coach is actually has a tremendous amount of respect for LSU's coach and says the same thing about him.
No, I've heard him talk about Brian a lot.
I'd like you to say that. Yeah. Don't you think that's a reflection of who the coach is?
For sure.
I'm going to say this, though. I wouldn't have believed what you said until I had all these guys on this past year. As far as hey, they would do the charity stuff for free. Of course, sometimes when you have to go, the coach tells you got. But now that I know them, I believe you 100% because these are the kind of character guys they are, and I was blown away. Literally, I thought this might be just a couple of them, a good sample, but when the 7th, 8th, 9th guy were the same kind of people, I'm like, wow, they got something special going there.
Don't you think I think that's the reason why they had such success.
There's no doubt, and they were 2-10 last year, and this is what I also didn't believe. I had the quarterback Gordon on in June. Coming off a 2-10 season, he looked at me, and he's a very sincere guy. And Fritz was on with him that show, and he says, "We're going to battle for the championship." And of course, you want to believe that all the time. He goes, "No, we are." Right. And we had a team captain meeting, off season, and said, "We're not putting up this anymore." And all 4 of those guys have been on the show, and they all said the same thing without me prompting them, saying that Michael Pratt had said it. They said we all said that we're going to do this. And I'm like sitting, and it happened. And LSU guys, they have same kind of quality guys as well.
For sure. Coach Kelly has something called the standard, the line. You have to be above a certain standard or a line in your different parts of your life, or else you're not going to play it. And we have that kind of worked into our contract where for the LSU football players, if they don't uphold certain community-based values and things like that, they fall below that standard. That's an immediate rescission of the contract if we choose to.
That's huge, and I'm gonna say this. I want you to ask you a question about Kelly because we all love Coach O. He gave us the greatest championship you ever. There's a stark difference in the type of people. It doesn't mean one's bad or the other's good, but I want you to explain now that Kelly's only been here literally a year, really.
Over a year, right?
Right, and so he got the job in January, I believe, of 2022. But what's he been like, and what's the differences you see from him and the prior coaches?
Well, big differences. Coach Kelly reminds me of Coach Saban. I had the pleasure to work with Coach Saban a lot and help him through different issues and things. So he's very business mind, very focused. He's got a much bigger picture in mind of where he wants the program and everything to go.
Yes.
Coach O was a little more emotional, right? He might just be focusing on the very thing in front of him at that time and not be thinking about the long-term implications of it. But huge personality. You can't approach that type of personality. No. You really can't. Coach Kelly doesn't have that personality, but he's a good guy you'd like to play around a golf or have a beer with afterwards. But there's only one Coach O.
So you've been through Saban. Les Miles, who I worked with on the road, he did some games with us, and that was an experience. I love Les.
Yeah, Coach Miles showed up one day at our house during Christmas one year, singing Christmas carols with his family.
That's awesome.
He looked to his family and said, "Hey, we're going to go sing some Christmas carols." And they picked 2 or 3 houses. I knew Coach Miles, and knock, knock, and there they are singing Christmas carols.
Man,
it's kind of
that's great.
Yeah, just a little bit out,
he's
out there.
offbeat.
Yeah,
but it's so wonderful to see people like that because he's not faking any of it.
He's nothing.
And Smacker, his kids are very loyal to him.
They are.
Smacker was on the show.
Yeah, she's great.
I think
great young lady.
I think she had just gotten the Kansas job, and she's phenomenal.
She is.
This girl can do whatever she wants in life, and I love seeing that. But any other stories
I
for
was
you?
going to ask you, Gordon. What I've been surprised at, because we've been talking about whether we got the ball started late. I had a conversation with a player who transferred to Tulane from Northwestern University, big university in Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago's got a lot of money.
Wonderful school.
And we told him about our program, and he was so excited. And I said, well, tell me about Northwestern's program. And he said, we had two guys, two people, and that's it, who got NIL deals and nobody else.
Yep.
And I asked him, is that consistent up there? And he's like, yeah, Michael, it's a whole different world. And so I started this thinking, man, we're way behind the 8 ball, and we weren't.
Well,
and I got to tell you, Gordon, you weren't either. You were
Let me
actually.
tell you, the rest of the Big Ten is not
well,
that. Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin.
They got a little bit.
Okay.
I think,
how about Notre Dame? Has Coach Kelly said anything about those guys?
Theirs it wasn't near as big, but I do think the SEC, as usual, leads things, right, in college football.
It just means more.
Yeah, it does.
It does. It's true, actually.
I just want to see what
it is. No, I think it's true.
It does. I mean, in the SEC, the schools, and Texas coming in, and a good friend of mine is the head of the collective over at Texas, and let me tell you, they're outspending all of us, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to. They just they need
have
to
the
at this point in
resources,
time. They have the resources, but it's much bigger in the South, and with Texas coming in, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
This has been fun. It's been a lot of fun, and I didn't know what to expect, and it's better than I could have dreamed. Okay. So I want to thank you both. Gordon McKernan, appreciate you.
Good seeing you,
Michael Arata, appreciate you, man. Two guys I've known for a long time. Once from high school and one from college, and here they are doing great things for their universities. And I love that one grew up in Baton Rouge, and he's at LSU in Baton Rouge, and Michael, of course, grew up in New Orleans at Tulane. Hey, we're going to come back next week. Man, I have got some great stuff coming next week. I can't wait for that one. Stay tuned right here, Primetime Sports. We'll see you then.
All right, great job.